Now, since 9/11, the Sikh community in the United States has been a target of hate crimes, with over 700 recorded attacks. And this was the case recently when a Sikh New York City resident and a friend were walking home one night and encountered a man in a pickup truck who used racial slurs to taunt them, calling them terrorists and telling them to, quote, go back to their country. Now, the Sikh man, father of two, Sandeep Singh, talked back and stood in front of his truck while he called the police. But the man then sped off, hitting Singh, and according to the Sikh coalition, dragged him 30 feet. Now, police claim that it was only 2 feet. Nonetheless, Singh was left critically injured. And this is what he told the Sikh coalition.
And I'm in a great deal of pain, but I will survive. I was attacked because I'm a Sikh and look like a Sikh. Justice should be served so no one else goes through what I've been through.
Joining us now to discuss this is Rajdeep Singh, a director of law and policy at the Sikh Coalition, and Dean Obadallah, former lawyer turned political comedian and writer. So thank you both for joining us. And Rajdeep, this happened nearly 2 years to the day after the massacre at Oak Creek. What do you think about the way the police responded to this hate crime?
Well, we're disappointed with the NYPD for a couple of reasons. There's a perception in the Sikh community of New York that the NYPD isn't very proactive about building bridges with the Sikh community, particularly in Queens. I'm also sorry to report that late last Thursday night, another Sikh on Roosevelt Island in New York City was assaulted in a suspected hate crime. And so the overall message that we'd like to send to the NYPD is that they need to be more proactive about preventing hate crimes against the Sikh community and all communities in New York City. One other point I'd like to make about the NYPD is that they don't allow turbaned Sikhs to serve in the New York Police Department. So essentially, we're being discriminated against by the NYPD because of our religion. Now, what kind of message does that send? On the one hand, the NYPD is supposed to be protecting us from hate crime, but on the other hand, they're perpetuating stereotypes of the sort that cause hate crimes to occur in the first place.
And when you say that the NYPD needs to be more proactive in protecting the Sikh community from these kind of hate crimes, what actions do you recommend that they take?
Well, we issued a letter to Mayor Bill de Blasio late last week after the second hate crime against our community, asking for a meeting. And we haven't received a firm response yet. What we'd ultimately like the NYPD and the New York mayor to do is to organize a task force to systematically address hate crimes, not just against the Sikh community, but also against the Arab, Muslim, Hindu, and South Asian communities. All of our communities in the post-9/11 environment have experienced violence and discrimination, and we think that this is a very achievable goal. It'll help build bridges between our communities and the NYPD, and I think the ball's in the New York City mayor's court right now.
And speaking of this second hate crime that occurred late last Thursday, too, the victim in that case chose to remain anonymous. Do you know why?
Well, that has changed as of this morning, and he did speak with a journalist from the Huffington Post about his experience. He was walking with his mother to dinner on Roosevelt Island and were intercepted by a group of about 10 individuals who began to call them Osama bin Laden, who told them to go back to their country, and who proceeded to assault him, punching him in the face and punching him in the back of the neck.
All right. Well, thank you for making sure that we're updated on that. Dean, you wrote about this, too, at the Daily Beast, and you said that the Sikh community needs its own Al Sharpton. Tell us what that means.
I think every minority community needs an Al Sharpton. Al Sharpton, love him or hate him, it doesn't matter. He is effective. He will get attention. When Eric Gardner here in Staten Island was put on an illegal chokehold by the police, and the man sadly, tragically died afterwards, Al Sharpton led a charge. He had a press conference, it got headlines. He met with Mayor de Blasio. He met with federal authorities. He's done this in the past. To me, attention equals a greater chance of justice being served. So that's why you need an Al Sharpton. That's why every community needs someone, and the Sikh Coalition is doing this exact same thing, because the only reason I found out about the attack on Mr. Singh in Queens was because they had a press conference last week. Before that, the media was barely covering it. And myself being Muslim, I feel a connection to this community and all communities of color, frankly, but especially the Sikh community, because a lot of them are suffering because people think they're us. They think they're Muslim. They wear a turban. They have a beard. They associate it with bin Laden. And to me, it's horrible injustice. And I also contacted the mayor's office to get a comment for the article about what are they going to do about this. Do they still a stand with the NYPD on discriminating against Sikhs, and sadly, no response from the mayor's office. And he's a new mayor. I know he's got a lot on his plate, but being responsive to hate crime should be a top priority.
And to that too, I mean, go ahead. I thought you wanted to jump in there. I mean, you had a very poignant line about that too in your article, Dean. You said what's especially heartbreaking is that in many instances, Sikhs are targeted because people believe they are Muslim. Being Muslim myself, I feel an added sense of anguish, almost guilt over the fact that the Sikhs are suffering because people think they are of my faith. Is there anything that the Muslim community can do to help the Sikh community? Does there need to be also, more coordination, cooperation between the two?
Well, there actually is, and I think your other guys can speak to that a little bit, but there has been, at the press event they had here in New York last week, there were people from the Muslim American community there. When I wrote my article, I sent it out to the major Muslim American organizations. I have a lot of contacts with CARE, MPAC, and other groups, and Arab American groups, and all of them did tweet it out, they put it on their Facebook. We do feel a connection. The idea, hate crime against anyone's wrong, because your religion, your race, your ethnicity, your sexual orientation. I think all of us should stand up against it. But I think especially we feel, and we should have an obligation in my community to stand with the Sikhs at this time, because we cannot, I know some say, well, bigots are bigots. We can't get away from the fact that some of them think they're attacking Muslims, and that's our community. And that's why we have to stand with the Sikhs, especially important.
And Rajdeep, what do you make about Dean's point, too, that you need perhaps someone who's more of a vocal, loud, and very public figure, someone like an Al Sharpton to kind of help force this issue into the spotlight?
Well, I think America needs a Martin Luther King figure. And I know that there are plenty of leaders in the Sikh community who are very eloquent, thoughtful about building bridges with other communities. Valerie Kaur, Simranjit Singh, Supreet Kaur, the executive director of my organization, all of them have been recognized for their interfaith work, and we're going to continue to do that. But I think right now we need some leadership from Mayor de Blasio in New York and also the NYPD.
And can you just tell us the latest, too, on how it is that the victim is doing?
Both of them are recovering. Sandeep Singh, who was attacked in Queens, was attacked quite brutally, and I think his injuries are still quite severe. Hopefully they're going to be okay, but right now our priority is catching the people who did this.
All right. And by the way, is there any update on catching those who are responsible?
We're still waiting for word from the NYPD. We've been in touch with them, and our hope is that witnesses who live in New York City who know about either of these crimes, either in Queens or Roosevelt Island, can call the NYPD with tips. Crime Stoppers 577-TIPS, I think, is their phone number. I would love to hear information. It's all anonymous, and we'd really appreciate that.
All right, Rajdeep and Dean, thank you both for joining us today.